namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devam saraswatim vyasam tado jayamudire nashta prayesha bhatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavadiruttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naishtike Mukam karoti pachalam bangam langete kire yat kripadam ham vande Shri Guru Dina Darinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nadinamini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prasharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Deshatharini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. So let's start reading from 4th canto, 22nd chapter, 34th verse today. Vishwan the sloka after me. Na kuryat karhichit sangam
karhichit sangam
tamastivram titrishuhu dharmartha kama mokshanam yad atyanda vikatamam. See the synonyms. Nan, do not, kuryat, act, karhichit, at any time, sangam, association, tamaha, ignorance, tivram, with great speed, titrishu, persons who desire to cross over nations, dharma, religion, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, mokshana, of salvation, yet that which, atyanda, very much, vigatakam, obstruction or stumbling block. Translation: those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nations must not associate with the modes of ignorance, for hedonistic activities are the greatest obstructions to the realization of religious principles, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and at last, liberation. Hare Krishna Mataji, read the purport.
Hare Krishna Mataji, then pranam. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The fourth principle of life allow one to live according to religious principle, to earn money according to one's position in society, to allow the senses to enjoy the sense objects according to regulations, and to progress along the path of liberation from this material attachment. As long as the body is there, it is not possible to become completely free from all these material interests. It is not, however, recommended that one act only for sense gratification and earn money for that purpose only, sacrificing all religious principles. At the present moment, human civilization does not care for religious principle. It is, however, greatly interested in economic development without religious principles. For instance, in slaughterhouse, the butchers certainly get money easily, but such business is not based on religious principle. Similarly, there are many nightclubs for sense gratification and brothel for sex. Sex, of course, is allowed in married life, but prostitution is prohibited because all our activities are ultimately aimed at liberation, at freedom from the clutches of material existence. Similarly, although the government may license liquor shops, this does not mean that liquor shops should be open unrestrictedly and illicit liquor smuggled. Licensing is meant for restricting. No one has to take a license for sugar, wheat, or milk because there is no need to restrict these things. In other words, it is advised that one act in a way that will obstruct the regular process of advancement in spiritual life and liberation. The Vedic process of sense gratification is therefore planned in such a way that one can economically develop and enjoy sense gratification and yet ultimately attain liberation. Vedic civilization offers us all knowledge in the Shastras, and if we live a regulated life under the direction of Shastras and Guru, all our material desires will be fulfilled. At the same time, we will be able to go forward to liberation. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, we'll do one more sloka. This is a continuation of the previous sloka, 422-35. Tatra bimoksha evartha atyantikata yeshyate Traivargyo artho yado nityam kritanta bhaya samyutaha. Synonyms. Tatra there, api also mokshaha, liberation. Eva certainly arte for the matter of atyantikataya, most important, ishete, taken in that way. Trivargyaha, the three others, namely religion, economic development, and sense gratification. Arthaha, interest. Yataha, where from. Nityam, regularly. Krita anta, death. Bhaya, fear. Samyutaha, attached. Translation. Out of the four principles, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, liberation has to be taken very seriously. The other three are subject to destruction by the stringent law of nature, death.
Purport.
Yes,
Moksha or liberation has to be taken very seriously, even at the sacrifice of the other three items. As advised by Sutta Goswami in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, religious principles are not based on success in economic development. Because we are very attached to sense gratification, we go to God, to the temples or churches for some economic reasons. Then again, economic development does not mean sense gratification. Everything should be adjusted in such a way that we attain liberation. Therefore, in this verse, liberation, moksha is stressed. The other three items are material and therefore subject to destruction. Even if somehow we accumulate a great bank balance in this life and possesses many material things, everything will be finished with death. In Bhagavad-Gita, it is said that death is the supreme personality of Godhead, who ultimately takes away everything acquired by the materialistic person. Foolishly, we do not care for this. Foolishly, we are not afraid of death, nor do we consider that death will take away everything acquired by the process of dharma, artha, and kama. By dharma or pious activity, they may be elevated to the heavenly planets, but this does not mean freedom from the clutches of birth, death, old age, and disease. The purport is that we can sacrifice our interest in Trivarga, religious principle, economic development, and sense gratification. But we cannot sacrifice the cause of liberation. Regarding liberation, it is stated in Bhagavad-Gita 4.9, Tyaktva dhyam punarjanma neti. Liberation means that after giving up this body, one does not have to accept another material body. To the impersonalist, liberation means merging into the existence of impersonal Brahma. But effectively, this is not moksha, because one has to again fall down into this material world from that impersonal position. One should therefore seek the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in his devotional service. That is real liberation. The conclusion is that we should not stress pious activities, economic development, and sense gratification, but should concern ourselves with approaching Lord Vishnu in his spiritual planets, of which the topmost is Goloka Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna lives. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement, it is the greatest gift for persons who are actually desiring liberation. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. न कुर्यात् कर्हिचित् सङ्गं तमस्तीव्रं तितृषुः धर्मार्थकाममोक्षाणां यत् अत्यन्ताविघातकम्. Translation: those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nations must not associate with the modes of ignorance, for hedonistic activities are the greatest obstructions to the realization of religious principles, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and at last liberation. Hare Krishna. So last sloka we saw how it's important to do devotional service and why we should not go behind only sense gratification. And here it's mentioned that those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nations, that means the material life, must not associate with the mode of ignorance. So what will happen if we associate with that mode of ignorance? Then we go down, right? So what are the two possibilities going to happen if you continuously associate with the mode of ignorance? What will happen to your next life?
Getting animal life.
Yeah, either you get an animal life or yes, Dinesh Prabhu.
Darkest region of the darkest, you get birth in the darkest region of the universe.
Yeah, Dinesh Prabhu was saying something.
Hellish planets, Mataji.
Hellish planet, very good. Hellish planet, and as Prakash Parak Prabhu says, you had the darkest region, which is the hellish planet, and also animal form of life, right? So yesterday we saw how some people, if they don't use the human form of life in the right way, they become non-moving living entities like the rock or the stone or the trees all that. So here it is said, the two things that happen when we go to the mode of ignorance. Either you go to the hellish planets, or you get rebirth in the darkest region, or in the animal form of life. Even that is because that's not the way to go back to Godhead, except Gajendra. And because Gajendra was not just an animal, he was a devotee in his previous life, right? Who was Gajendra? Right in the chat. So he had already done devotional service and he was just continuing it. And here it is said, we who likes to go for liberation, or who wants to reach the goal of life, which is love of Godhead, we should not associate with the mode of ignorance, and must not associate with the mode of ignorance, or the people in the mode of ignorance. No, we should not associate with that. Yeah. So Rekha Mataji says Indradumna Maharaj. So he was Indradumna Maharaj in the previous life. And so he continued where he stopped. But we should not associate with the mode of ignorance, or with the people who are in the mode of ignorance, right, in Tamoguna. Because we are trying to elevate ourselves to Shuddha Sattvagun. So if we associate with that mode, we get influenced by that mode. So there's a lot of Shastric evidences from the Shastras. You hear, take the three great evidence, Bhagavad-Gita, Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, which says we should not associate in the mode of ignorance. So Bhagavad-Gita says, Karanam Gunasanga Asya. Means what? Because we are associating that particular mode, next Janma, we get that particular type of body, right? That's in chapter 22nd sloka. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunte prakriti chan guna karanam gunasanga asya sadasat yoni janmashu. So karanam gunasanga asya asad yoni janmashu. Why we are taking janma in different species of life? Why somebody is becoming an animal, somebody is becoming a human, somebody is going to a demigod body? Why? Because of guna sanga asya karanam. That's the cause. Because we are associating with that particular type of mode of material nature. So if you associate with tamoguna, what happens? We take birth in that particular body. So the living entity in the material nature follows the way of life, enjoying the three modes. It's due to the association of that particular nature, we go into different species of life. So if we associate with devotees who are in Sattvagun, Shuddha Sattvagun, then there is a chance for us to go to that particular type of mode, right? And when we associate with devotees, what happens is you start developing bhakti. When you associate with drunkards, you automatically become a drunkard. So the power of association is so strong that you should associate with devotees. And we associate with devotees, what to do? What happens? Sada prasangan mama virya samvito bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kada tajoshanada suapavarga vartmani shraddha radir bhaktir anukramishasi. So again, Kapila says in the 3rd canto, 25th chapter, 25th sloka, Sada prasanga mama virya samvito bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kada. When you associate with devotees, and what should we do? Bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kada. You have to hear the Krishna Rasayana, or the Katha, Vasudeva Katha. And then Shraddha Radir Bhakti Ranukramishasi. That's how you develop devotional services. So in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality God, it is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually become advanced in the path of liberation, and therefore he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. The real devotional service or devotion begins then. So first is association, right? So we have to associate with pure devotees, and in that way discuss about the Lord or hear about the Lord, and then gradually what happens? The door of liberation opens. Our knowledge, you develop knowledge, and gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation. And then we become fixed. That means you reach the stage of Nishta, and real devotional service actually begins then only. Okay, so that's why the association is so important. And Prabhupada mentions that association with Krishna conscious people are the best. Definitely, they help us to advance in Krishna consciousness. Mahaprabhu also says the same thing, right? What does Mahaprabhu says about Vaishnavachar? Who is a Vaishnava? About association? Does anyone know? According to Mahaprabhu, what is the definition of a Vaishnava? No idea. Asat Sangatyage ye Vaishnavachar. So Asat Sangatyage ye Vaishnava Achara Stri Sanga Ekas Asadu Krishna Bhakta Ara Asat Sangatyaga. So that's what Chitra Mahaprabhu says, that we should not associate with asat, or the association of non-devotees. See, rejection of the association of devotees. That's the behavior of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava should always avoid the association of ordinary people and common people. Why? They are because materially attached, especially to women, Stri Sangi, and Vaishnava should avoid the company of those who are not devotees of Lord Krishna. Then what will happen is our bhakti gets destroyed. It won't get advanced. You don't advance. So yes, what to do when your family is non-devotees, when your people at work is non-devotees, or the relatives are non-devotees? Then what did you do? It's not easy, no? We live in the world of so many non-devotees. Then what do? How can you follow this rule?
Give everything, but you do not take anything from them.
That's good. Yes, Sureka Mataji?
The same thing, Mataji.
Yeah, so that means you take association, you give association, not take association, right? So you give association, because the 6 aspects of association is dadadi pradigrihnadi kuhyamakyadi prachiti bhunte bhojade chaiva shadvita priti lakshanam. So the 6 aspects, that is giving gifts, accepting gifts, giving prasadam, accepting prasadam, revealing one's your mind, one's your own mind. So if you reveal to your non-devotee, now just imagine you call a non-devotee and say, see, my chanting is not good, I'm not getting, I'm doing inattentive chanting. How does a non-devotee going to help you? You are not going to, or any other problem in your spiritual life or material. If you reveal to a non-devotee, they are not going to, first of all, they don't know the glories of chanting the holy name. And what are they going to help you? How are they going to help you? So you give association, you tell them to, you ask, you can reveal your, don't reveal your mind, but then hear from them. So you give association and don't take association, right? So asat sangat tyage yei Vaishnavachar. That's what Mahaprabhu says. The continuation of this sloka. So here dharma, artha, kama, moksha have been explained, and Prabhupada says that if we have a regulated life under the instruction of Shastra and Guru, then we can reach the goal. And here, tatrabi moksha evartha atyantika yeshyate traivargyo artayato nityam kritanta bhaya samyuta. So the first 3 things, that is religious principle, economic development, sense gratification, they're all temporary and material. And liberation is the permanent. And Prabhupada, here it said liberation must be taken very seriously, because the other 3 will be destroyed by the law of nature, that is death. And here Prabhupada explains how death will take everything from us, right? Mrityu sarva haraschaham, right? Ultimately, it's the death who takes everything from us, whatever we acquire or anything. So Prabhupada was saying in the lecture that a person might be owning half of the world, in the sense so much property, so many things. But then at the time of death, how much land he needs? Just 6 feet. So as to lie down there, or bury his body or something like that. So it's only that much he needs, right? And then everything is destroyed by death. So here it is said everything is taken, dharma, artha, kama, everything will be taken by the providence or at the time of death. But then what about moksha? That's the real thing. And Prabhupada mentions here that liberation means, okay, after giving up this body, you don't take another body. Okay, but for an impersonalist, that is merging into the existence. What type of mukti is this? Merging into the existence of the Brahman.
Sayujya Mukti.
Yeah, and why it's not permanent? This fall down,
Because
why?
again,
He is not taken
As soon as the credits are over, you go fall down.
Why there is a fall down? That's my question. Why they are falling down?
As soon as the
still in the
credits are
world.
over.
No activity.
No devotional service.
No
Yes.
devotional service, there is no activity there. Aruhi krichera parampatam tat patanti ata. They have to fall down again to this material world. They think yenne ravindaksha vimukta manina. They think they are liberated vimukta manina. But then there is only Brahmananda. There's no Sevananda. If there is no service, then you don't feel like staying there, or you can't stay there, and you have to come down. And so that's the Sayuja Mukti, is the lowest state, which the demons also get. But Prabhupada mentions here the real Mukti. What is the real Mukti? One should therefore seek the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in his devotional service. This is real liberation. So real liberation is what? Take shelter of the Lord and engage in his devotional service. That's what is happening in the spiritual world also. We are actually engaging in devotional service. And for that, what should we do? We should therefore try to take Krishna consciousness as the greatest gift and be serious in Krishna consciousness. So we have to hear. So engage in devotional service means hear about the Lord. Now hear about the Lord. The Shravanam is first, and then chanting about the Lord and doing all the type of devotional service. Even if you do, then there is real moksha. So here, it's not like you do devotional service and it's benefiting only you. No, the whole family gets benefited, and also whoever is around you. When you're chanting, when you're hearing, the whole surrounding area gets purified, right? So once what happened, there was a prostitute, and she was living in a bad life. So everybody's like, she's not having any punya, and she didn't do any devotional service also. She didn't do, but she had a parrot, and that parrot every day, like, she used to let it out and just go somewhere and come back again to her home. So she had a parrot, and she was very close to that parrot. So once what happened, near her house, there was a bull was about to die. So everybody is like, and it was near a tree, and this parrot used to daily go and sit in that tree, and that bull was there. So someone came and said the bull is suffering, it has to go now, but then somebody has to transfer the punya to that bull. So nobody was ready to do that, and this prostitute is like, whatever sukriti I have, whatever ajnata sukritis I have, let that bull take it, and then let the bull get benefited. And she said this, and the bull went back home, back to Godhead. So everybody's like, she's a prostitute. What benefit or what Ajnata Sukriti did she do that she can transfer it to that bull? And later on, they came to know that this parrot used to visit to a devotee's house every day and hear Bhagavad-Gita from that devotee. And the parrot, it repeats. So it comes back to the prostitute's house and daily repeat Bhagavad-Gita. This is in Padma Puran, one of the glories of Bhagavad-Gita, the Gita Mahatmya stories. It comes. So there the parrot used to chant Bhagavad Gita slokas every day, and the prostitute just listens, she don't even, her mind is not absorbed, or she doesn't do devotional service, but unknowingly, because the parrot kept on chit-chatting on the sloka, she used to hear it, and she got that Ajnata Sukriti. So even though because of her karma, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, so Prabhupada says there is religious principles, there is artha. Then what happens? You go for economic development, so much money, and then sense gratification. Once everything is over, then what happens? People slowly go to liberation side. So Prabhupada says all these three things are very temporary, and it's going to be destroyed. But moksha is the permanent, and we should be serious about that. Just by hearing that Bhagavad Gita, even the prostitute's mind started changing. So we know the story how Haridas Thakur had been approached by the prostitute, right? So the real liberation means engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. So liberation doesn't mean just after death, going back to Godhead. Even in this life, same life, you can get liberated by constantly engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. All the great acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, constantly engaged in the glories of spreading the glories of the holy name and about Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, right? So that is real liberation. So Prabhupada mentions that this Krishna conscious movement is the greatest gift for persons who are actually desiring liberation. But liberation is also secondary for a pure devotee, no? It's called moksha lagugrat. That's one of the symptoms of bhava, or ecstasy, some devotional service in ecstasy. So who is the one who actually rejected liberation?
Haridas
Thakur, yes, he's already liberated. Villamangalam Thakur. What does Villamangalam Thakur says about moksha?
Liberation was standing at his door, but he refused to go.
Yeah. Standing at his doorstep with closed arms, in the sense, Mukti Swayam Muguladanjali Seveya Rasmin. Mukti Devi is standing at his doorstep with folded hands. What service can I do? So for a devotee, we're already liberated. Already. The liberation is a byproduct. We don't have to work for moksha. No. What is more important than moksha is pure devotional service. Right? Pure devotional service is greater than moksha, because the happiness which you get by doing pure devotional service is greater than the happiness of liberation. Yes, even after liberation, when you get the other four liberations, Sarupya, Samipya, Sashti, and Saloge, you go back home, back to Godhead, and you can do service. But a pure devotee is happy, even in hell or heaven, wherever he is, unless he is doing devotional service to the Lord, right? So here Prabhupada mentions that our concern should be in approaching the Lord Vishnu in his spiritual planets, in which the topmost is Goloka Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna lives. Why not Vaikuntha? Why Prabhupada specially mentioned about Goloka?
because there are more rasas
Lord
at
Krishna is
Golok Vrindavan. Like
In Vaikuntha, there is chance of falling down.
no,
Where?
Lord
Vaikuntha?
Krishna,
no,
Lord
no.
Krishna is
Vaikuntha is
Oh,
always
Krishna is
happy.
there in
Lord
Shyam Sundar
we can
Swarup.
In Vaikuntha, there is no fall down. How come? Vaikuntha is a spiritual world. Yeah,
Goloka,
Vaikuntha is Vishnu, then
Goloka Vrindavan is where the continuous pastime of the Lord Krishna is going on. So you can perform your devotional service continuously.
all the rasas
Vaikuntha
are
also
there.
devotion pastimes are going on. We can do
All
devotional
the
service in
rasas are there,
Vaikuntha.
like
Lord
Madhurya ras,
Krishna is
Vatsalya
there.
ras, Sakhya ras.
Yeah,
They are
which
there
rasas
in
are specially found in Goloka? It's not found in
Madhur.
Vaikuntha.
Madhurya,
Madhurya,
Vatsalya, Sakhya,
Vatsalya.
Valsalya, and
Sakhya,
Sakya ras.
Sakhya.
Yes.
All
So
type of rasas will be available.
yeah, all the 5 types of rasas is available. And what's the mode of worship in Vaikuntha? We're not comparing, both are spiritual world. We can't say one is above which one. But then Prabhupada mentioned, especially here, that the topmost is Goloka Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna lives. Golokera Nivishati Atilatma Buddha. So he stays there in Goloka, or he does his pastimes in Golok Vrindavan. And Krishna also says, Vrindavanam Paritijya Padam Ekam Nagachati. He just doesn't take one step outside Vrindavan. Don't have a feeling that somebody said in Vaikuntha there is a fall down. How come? It's a spiritual world. Vaikuntha is also a spiritual world where Lord Vishnu is there, and all the inhabitants of Vaikuntha have the 4 hands, which is like the Sarupya Mukti, which has the 4 hands. What is the proof that in Vaikuntha there are 4 hands for all the inhabitants? Any proof from Bhagavatam? Can you say
The
that?
Vishnu Dutas that came to
Yeah,
Ajamil, they had 4
yeah,
hands.
the Vishnu Dutas who came for Ajamila, yes, they had 4 hands. Then only that's the proof.
Even Prithu Maharaj,
Yeah,
also Vishnu
Vishnu
Dutas
Maharaj
came.
also they came. Who else?
Yeah.
There's one more Maharaj, Dhruva.
Dhruva Maharaj, yeah. Dhruva
So
Maharaj.
they in those pastimes we can say. So in Vaikuntha also Lord Vishnu is worshipped. As Prabhupada mentions, there's no much difference. Vishnu is like the person at your father at work, and it's officially worshipped, and then at home, that's Krishna, the sweet form. But then the topmost here, because the rasas, as he said, all the 5 rasas, especially Madhurya ras, Valsalya, and Sakya, especially found in Vrindavan. And the Shuddha Madhurya ras. In Vaikuntha it is Aishwarya Bhava, Aishwarya Mishrita rasa. So that's the difference in these 2 places. So then the topmost is Golok Vrindavan, where the Lord is in 200 form. And the best way, the easiest way to go to Goloka, which is that easiest way. There are 4 paths to go to Goloka, it is said. That's Madhura, that's Dharaka. What the easiest way for us in Kali Yuga?
By chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Chanting is fine. Chanting, you reach Goloka. But there are different other ways. The easiest or the most merciful path.
Service to Vaishnava devotees.
Devotional service.
Stay in Vrindavan.
Whom should you worship if to reach there? Radharani? That's all high standards. Not for people in Kali Yuga. We can't directly approach Radharani. Through whom should we go?
Srila Prabhupada.
We should go to devotees.
Devotees,
Acharya,
mercy of
devotees,
pure
Srila
devotees.
Prabhupada, yes. Who else?
Guru.
Who's the most merciful incarnation in Kali Yuga?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya.
So you should say it first. It's Gauranga, it's the Shweta Deep through which we can easily approach. So it is said that when you worship Gauranga, Gauranga doesn't put any demand. Krishna puts the demand, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't put any demand in front of you. Just chant at the holy name and that's it. And then, so you have to worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga. And you can see in the Goloka chart, you can see Radha Krishna, and also like the Goloka Vrindavan is like a rose petal, rose and the petals, the lotus petals. And on side, you can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his associates. That's the easiest way to go to approach the Lord. Yes, Dinesh Prabhu?
Mataji, Prabhupada has also assured backdoor entry to Goloka.
Yeah, Prabhupada is more merciful, but Prabhupada in fact have said us to worship Gauranga, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes.
So Yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So yes, Prabhupada is the most merciful. Definitely, the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu is flowing through Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, if not for Srila Prabhupada, we are not here. So it's Krishna conscious movement. He is a Senapati Bhakta, or the Sonapati Nayak of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mora Senapati Bhakta will come. So he is empowered by the Lord. So definitely it's Prabhupada, and it's Prabhupada who led us. But then, unless you worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Gauranga, you can't enter the Goloka Vrindavan, right? So that's all. So worshipping Radharani, Krishna, yes, the standards are very high. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga, is the Kali Yuga avatar, and Kalikale Nama Rupe Krishna avatar, and he came to propagate the holy name, which Srila Prabhupada took forward to all parts of the world. So yes, so our real liberation is to seek shelter of the Lord and engage in his devotional service. So take this message today and meditate on this message. In every purport of Srila Prabhupada's, you read, and then there's some conclusion which Prabhupada says we should be stressed so much importance on, that we have to take shelter of the Lord and engage in his devotional service. That is real liberation. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Anything to add? Questions? So rest, everything. Economic development, sense gratification, everything is temporary, and death is going to take everything from us. But then the real liberation is during devotional service. And in that, Taramadhya Sarvasreshta Nama Sankirtan, Niraparate Namalayo Payo Premadan. Out of all the 9 devotional service, the most important is Taramadhya Sarvasreshta Nama Sankirtan. Nama Sankirtan, chanting the holy name of the Lord, is the highest. And Niraparata Namalaya, if you chant the holy name without offense, then Payo Premadan, you get love of Godhead. So I don't know when will we reach that Shuddha Nama stage. We are all Nama Aparat stage. Slowly you go to Nama Apha stage. But then when you reach Shuddha Nam, then that's when the real love of Godhead starts. Okay. Hare Krishna. So keep chanting. That's more important to chant. Today is Srivas Pandit's disappearance day. Who is Srivas Pandit? Who was Srivas Pandit?
Radharani.
Srivas?
Sorry. Narad
Muni.
Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani. Yeah, Srivas is Narad Muni. Appearance, okay, appearance of Srivas. So just pray to Narad Muni, who has come in Srivas Pandit form. And you remember the Srivas Angan is the place. When we went to Mayapur, we went there and we had a nice kirtan there. That's the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to have his Sankirtan in the evening with all his associates. So, and Srivas actually, even when his son passed away, he didn't even let Chaitanya Mahaprabhu know that, because he didn't want to disturb Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime. And he was such an exalted devotee, definitely Narad Muni himself coming. And people try to so much defame him by putting all non-vegetarian things at his home, as if Kali Puja is happening and all. But Srivas was never touched, affected by all that. He continued his devotional service, and such a great kirtan was happening at his home. And he was there in the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as Narad Muni himself came, he is actually Bhakta Avataram, right? He came Panchatattvatmagam Krishna. Bhakta Rupam is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhakta Avataram is Nityananda Prabhu. Bhaktakya, he's Bhaktyaka, or as the Bhakta. Okay, Bhakta Shaktika is Gadadhar Pandit. So Srivas Pandit had appeared today, and then he's so merciful on this particular day. So we pray. There's no fasting or anything like that, but then just pray so that we get a lot of mercy, and we can get the taste for Harina. Okay, I think we can end here. No questions. Vanchakalpatarupascha kripasindhupe eva cha patidana pavaneva vaishnaveva namo namo Thode Vaishnava ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you, Mataji.